So I can tell you right now, you're not the first person to reach out to me about CPPS and and kind of the issues that people have come up with. And I do think that resistance stretching is a really great modality. The problem is that resistance stretching is good for like everyone from athletes to like stroke victims. It's a huge spectrum. And the way that people approach it is so different. Like athletes are like, rip the fascia. And like people who have strokes are like, just move this much. Like, you know, so it's kind of finding the place in between that is the trick. And that's why I really wanted to get on the phone today and kind of talk you through and answer your questions and see what we can, you know, bring to the community, because there is some confusion, and people who are in your boat with CPPS are like kind of confused on how much effort to put in to heal versus how gentle you need to be with your body when you have chronic pelvic pain.
Yeah, it's there's sort of like, when you begin this journey, there's this whole, you go down the road of doctors and medication, and the general consensus appears to be just to throw antibiotics at it. And they have, antibiotics have an affinity for tendons and ligaments. So a lot of people have some serious side effects from it. One of the most common side effects is that they cause serious tendon inflammation, to the point of like people have experienced like Achilles tendon rupture and so on and so forth, like nerve damage. Like people get like tinnitus and stuff. That the side effects are profound. So, but for me personally, when this sort of journey began, I kind of avoided that, because my symptoms came on gradually. Mine were very sort of like, it was clearly a muscular issue. I'd been gaming for years. I'd done 2 degrees, so I was sat down on computers all day. Like, I wasn't very, like, I'm slim, but I'm not in shape. I'm just, it's my metabolism. Like, I'm just lucky, so the general consensus is doctors. And then when that doesn't work, a lot of people go down the road of like YouTubing other people's stories and stuff. And the overall sort of thing that people come to is that stretching and like strengthening is sort of the way to go. But as you know, there's a multitude of methods or sort of directions that you can go in. And things like resistance stretching, there's plenty of platforms to use. And there's one that always seems to divide the crowd on its its ability to affect or help people, and that's things like DCT or static stretching or PNF stretching or strength and stuff. The road I went down was just generally static stretching, and then I ended up injuring myself and pulling a few tendons and stuff. So I started looking into ways to strengthen, and eccentrics and resistance stretching came into it. And I started looking into things like DCT, and the crowd is so divided on what to do and stuff. And I've seen like, I make no claims of whether or not it does and does not work. Like, I've seen some success stories, but I've also seen some horror stories where people have ended up with like loads of jaw pain, like their neck locks up, but other people have said it really helped me. So like, there is this kind of back and forth on you know, how much you should resist, you know, what, like, because the terminology that I find, I'm in a few forums at the minute, a few Discords, and like a fair few of them are doing resistance stretching, and the terminology that gets thrown around is rather scary, because it's like, we want to melt the fascia, we want to burn the fascia away, we want to tear into it. And like, there's this mentality that when you get into a stretch, you should squeeze as hard as you possibly can. And like, a lot of people have said like, oh, I was in agony for weeks after that. Like, and I've tried that I tried the YouTube videos of resistance stretching, of DCT, and me myself, I was in a lot of pain, and I could have been doing it wrong. But yeah, I guess I sort of contacted you to get some to get a different, I guess, perspective on it, I guess, you know.
Yeah. And I can tell you, we all came from the same source. We learned resistance stretching from Bob Cooley, who I'm sure you have come across as well.
Yeah.
Genius, like amazing guy, great information. But like you said, everybody kind of has a different philosophy on how to progress with this, and it really depends on like who your clients are. Like I think that's one of the big pieces. And so Nick went off and created DCT, which was an amazing, I mean, it's so amazing. And he's actually even taught some of us. I do a method called Kihara resistance stretching, and which is just another route, right?
Yeah.
We have this problem solving method that is like, to me, mind blowing and innovative and like game changer, 100% game changer. Of course, it's what I do, so I love it. Nick goes a little bit in a different direction, where like when he teaches the stretches, if something hurts, you listen to that pain and then you kind of chase the pain around until you clear up the issues, which kind of goes into a question that you were asking me before about like, once you stretch one thing, then the pain might migrate into a different area. And basically what that is like your body has cleared up something and then something else has shown up, or as you're stretching somewhere, a barrier will present itself. So like, for instance, you might be trying to stretch your hamstrings and you feel pinching in your hip flexors. And that pinch in your hip flexors is actually keeping you, like preventing you from getting a good stretch in your hamstrings, or even getting any stretch in your hamstrings, frankly. So, so there are just these different personalities doing different things, and we all approach people in different ways, as people do. So my method at Stretch Chi, which is even different. Like I use Kihara as my toolbox, but like the way that I approach my clients is a little different. I just like to see normal people move like they're young again. Like I just want them to feel powerful and strong and fluid in their own bodies. So that takes on a different set of words than you would have with somebody who's like an athlete who's trying to perform at their highest level. If given the option, like I just want to help people get out of pain. And the best way to get out of pain is not to recreate more pain in your body. Like that's one of the big things about stretching is that I can't wrap my head around, is why people think that hurting themselves in a stretching session is going to take away their pain later. It just doesn't. And it seems like common sense to me, but a lot of people associate stretching with pain, and they think that they're not going to get rid of their pain, or they're not going to become more flexible unless they can rip through the fascia, or, you know, like really power through, or put tons of resistance into it, because your effort equals your results, right?
Yeah.
Really.
I was gonna say, like, there seems to be a great deal of confusion. I was wondering what your method is with regards to how much you should resist. Like, when going into a stretch. Like, I know that with regards to like PNF stretching, the logic is like you wanna resist about 20 to 30% of your strength, and then you want to stretch. But with other things that I've seen, it's very much like resist as hard as you possibly can, feel that burn, feel that pain, stretch into it, and it's very intense. And when I tried doing that, I did try for a good while. It was very uncomfortable. I was very sort of it's hard to get in the mindset of wanting to do that every day, because you wake up sort of just beaten to all hell, really, like just battered and bruised.
So there are a lot of different answers to this question, actually. So the idea is to be able to resist as much as you can while only isolating the muscle that you're working on. So I'll say that again, because that's really important. You want to be able to resist as much as you can while still isolating the muscle you're working on, but not recruiting other muscles. Now, of course, you have to recruit some muscles, because when you're doing resistance stretching on your own, you have to like pull up your own leg, or you have to, you know, like you have to use your arms to help you with, you know, so there's that piece. But what I notice is that when they say maximum resistance when you stretch, people lock up their entire bodies. And that's not the plan. The plan is to maximize your resistance within that one stretch. Well, from what I understand, and I don't have the study to show, I wish I did, but there was a study that came out about eccentrics, and it said that you don't really have to resist that much to get the benefit of a resistance stretch. You just have to resist enough that the muscles grab in the right way. And so the science of resistance stretching is that there are filaments inside of your sarcomeres, which are the fibers inside of your muscles. So basically that like all these chain links that are all connecting. And when you resist, they bind differently. So this is like at a cellular level over millions of sarcomeres in your muscle fibers, right? That are happening, I mean, super microscopic. All it is like one little piece of calcium binds to a piece of filament, and that changes the way the stretch happens. So the stretch is happening from the middle of your muscle. All you need to do is put some load into that muscle to get that reaction. So it's like a chemical reaction. And so that load could be a 5-pound weight, or it could be a 30-pound weight, depending on, I'm using those weights as, oh gosh, you're in the UK, you don't even use weights. You know what I mean? A lightweight versus a heavyweight. So you can use very little resistance. So like, for instance, if you're dealing with pelvic pain, that's a pretty vulnerable area of your body. And when you're working on the pelvis, you want it to be have an easy fluid motion. You don't want your pelvis muscles to act like your quads act, right? Like your quads are meant to like lift heavy things. You don't want like strong shoulder muscles in your pelvis. That's not how the pelvis works. What you want with the pelvis is for it to like really flow. Like when you're walking, it should feel like a pendulum. It should feel like you can move your hips, like everything sways and moves easily, right? Yeah. That's ideally what you want. So when you think about like the personality of the muscle, you want it to have that fluid, easy, gentle quality. So when you stretch muscles of your pelvis, specifically like your hip flexor muscles, then resisting really heavily is not going to serve you.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So like, for instance, I don't know exactly what the DCT stretches for your hip flexors, but we have one for like this muscle one. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So where you just resist into this movement. So here I'm resisting by pulling my back leg forward. So my back leg's trying to kick up like this, and my front leg's trying to pull back like this. So a good stretch would be for me to just pull with my front leg easily until I feel the stretch, and then pull back. Now you notice I can still move my arms. I can still talk to you. I can move easily, it's fluid. If I resist with everything I've got, my quads take over immediately, and I don't get a hip flexor stretch. I only get quad pain, and that's a compensation pattern. It's not helpful. So like this is in a case where resisting 100% is just going to incorporate, or it's going to recruit other muscles, and you're going to like cover up the stretch you're actually trying to get.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Yeah. So I would say the best way to start off with resistance stretching, especially if you're in chronic pain, is to start with like 10% resistance.
Yeah.
Make sure that you feel good within every stretch. And then as you're doing the stretches, only move in the range of motion where you feel good. So you don't actually pull yourself into the deepest stretch. You only work in a small range of motion, and it might not feel like you're doing much, but you'd be surprised. The results are pretty profound when you do less. That's kind of amazing to think about, but it's true. And I've seen it, I've seen it a million times. So the less is more idea is really hard for people to wrap their brains around. It's a bit of a paradigm shift.
That's a common thing that I've encountered, that it's this, that you should be doing, like when I started doing static stretching, it did help me. So when I started doing things like when I was trying to engage my muscles during stretching, I found that the more I resisted, the more issues it caused, essentially. So I figured that the less is more method would be the road to go down. So that was when I started to make most of my progress. If ever I engaged a muscle or something, it was only 10, maybe 20% of what I had to give. But any single time I've tried to really push myself, to really to try as hard as I possibly can, it has always kind of ended up in injury. And like I guess one of my other questions was like, the next morning, let's say, how long a day, or how long would you resistance stretch in a day, would you say? Like, what would be the amount? Because I believe on DCT it's like an hour in the morning, it's an hour at night, and that's
that's a lot.
It's almost impossible, I would say, to fit into your routine, like into your day to day.
Who has that time? I don't have that time. So
that's
my program is built. My program's built around like 20 to 30 minutes a day, and then for me, I resistance stretch when I feel like I need to problem solve my body. So I don't even stretch every day. I might stretch every 2 weeks for myself, because I've already removed all my barriers. So I don't have anything that's tough. But like, for instance, in December, I had surgery on my hip. Not like I had a mass that I had removed. I always tell people, like, I didn't hurt myself.
Just to clarify.
Just to clarify, it wasn't my muscles. But it caused a lot of tension and pain, and then recovering from the surgery, like my hamstrings got tight, like my posture got a little funny because I was walking weird. So then I would go into these stretching sessions that for myself, where I would do a lot of problem solving. And because of problem solving, you're constantly assessing and then fixing and then reassessing and fixing other things and reassessing. So that can take some time. So, I mean, I've stretched for an hour, 2 hours before. I wouldn't, I mean, to stretch 2 hours a day, to me, if you have to do everything every day, it's not working.
that's always been my logic is, like, you get these. There was a guy in the forum that I'm in who said, I've been doing this now for 17 months and I've made no progress. And I'm like, if after 17 months, like, you're not, then you need to reassess the situation and come at this from like a different angle, essentially. Like, he's made progress, and like, but he's plateaued, I guess you'd say. And like, there is this kind of and like with stretching with me, I found that it helped, but then when I injured myself, it affected my stretching routine entirely. Like, I couldn't go any further. Like, I just felt battered and bruised throughout my body. I was like, I can't do this every day. I'm going to end up in a wheelchair. And I didn't have the time. I was doing my degree. I was like, you try having a social life, you try, and it is like 30 to 40 minutes a day, maybe an hour. That, I would say, that's acceptable. But 2 hours a day, like, if you've got like a very intense job, or if you're working like 9 to 5, 9 to 6, 2 hours a day is a lot of time. So I always kind of felt that was a bit much to throw at someone, like, like 4 to 5 times a week with 2 days rest or something like that. You're immediately back at it. So I think
you kind of need to like assess where you're at too. Like, if you were a professional athlete, stretching an hour a day would probably make sense, because you're probably also working out 2 hours a day on top of that, right? And that's your whole life. But for people who are in chronic pain, you may not be moving at all. And then suddenly you're doing 2 hours of resistance stretching every day. Like, come on, 2 hours of working out for anybody is super intense. But for somebody who's in chronic pain, who like maybe never gets off your chair all day long, or like it's painful for you to even get up and walk around, or, like, if you're in pain, that's hard. And I think sometimes people think, well, I'll do anything to get out of pain. But if I did resistance stretching 2 hours a day, I'd be in pain too. Like, that's intense work. So
Yeah.
I would say, like, my recommendation for somebody starting out in chronic pain would be to start like maybe 3 to 4 days a week, with about 20 minutes to 30 minutes a day, rotating the stretches so that you're not, I mean, you could rotate, like if you're doing my videos off of YouTube, you do different stretches every time so that you're learning new things and you're, problem solve as you go. Or I have a program that basically starts you from like week 1 and works through week 2, week 3, week 4, adding resistance stretches onto simple moves so that each week you don't really feel like you're progressing, but you are. It's like every session feels easy and simple. And as we add more things on, you just get better. Like, you just get stronger and more flexible, and it feels like the same as week 1. But the 3 days a week, or like 4 days a week, and then spending your other days recovering, maybe going for a walk, even just getting your body moving would be really, really helpful. And I think also because, talking about the fluidity and the ease of movement that you want, especially in your pelvis, you want to do things that are fluid and easy for your body, like a gentle stroll, walking through the woods or something beautiful where you can really like appreciate nature and not feel like you're pushing yourself too much, but that you're finding that ease and fluidity in your body, because it's so important for those muscles to let go. They need to trust you. Like, that's a whole other, let me curb that for a second. But doing something like walking, gentle walking, going for an easy swim. I know swimming's not always easy, but like swimming would be really good because it reinforces that feeling of fluidity and ease of movement. So doing those on your off days if you feel like you need more workout. But when it comes to it, like, resistance stretching is like lasting results. So you do one stretch, the results that you get from that stretch will continue. They don't go away. So like you asked in your email about my shoulder pain, and like I did resistance stretching, that pain went away forever. I was in so much pain I couldn't brush my teeth without holding my arm up. I mean, it was like anything in this movement was impossible. I mean, I just had pain. I felt really uncomfortable. I was really imbalanced. I had elbow pain. My fingers were tight. And I was a piano player, so it was tough. But the resistance stretching, like, it didn't take long at all to get my body rebalanced so that it could start healing itself. And then I just felt like I had normal shoulders. It wasn't like I went through anything excruciating, painful. I was going to see a trainer. He did assisted stretching on me. So he did the work and I was on a table, but I went to see him every 2 weeks. I wasn't stretching every day, and he didn't give me any assignments in between. So it wasn't like I was doing anything else. And that pain, once he did that work, gone. And that's what I've seen with my clients too. Like, once they do the resistance stretching, get the problem solving figured out, then that tension shouldn't come back unless you're doing something in your life to recreate the tension daily, right? So like marathon runners are always going to have tight hamstrings. Like, I can't stretch a marathon runner and make his hamstrings loose, because the next day he's going to run 13 miles or 20 miles. And like, it's going to be, it's going to be there again. You
can't resistance stretch and then go back to sitting for 8 hours a day and not expect some tension to come back. Like, that's your body's just going back to its old ways. There was another question I wanted to ask with regards to a common, I don't know why, but a common theme that appears to happen is jaw pain, like insane jaw pain. Like, when I was trying this for a while, my neck and my jaw just locked up, and it like I couldn't figure as to why. And that's sort of what led me on to like how pain travels and pain changes around the body and stuff. And I was wondering what your experience was with clients who've used your method with like problem solving. Like, you say that it's not nearly as intense. So have you experienced any of these side effects of like things travel, like your neck locking up or your shoulders locking up or anything? Like, because by the sounds of it, I like your method more, where it's not like it's more fluid. It's a little, it's less intense. Like, I like the sound of that.
Yeah, I feel like when we're talking about chronic pain, like you kind of need a more gentle approach. Like you need a little more of like you need to be cradled through it. Like I hate to
Yeah,
say that, but
exactly.
like it needs to be more gentle. So yeah, this traveling pain idea is pretty common, and basically what ends up happening is I'm hearing two different things. So the first thing is this jaw pain. Like that's
Yeah.
when I started resistance stretching too. I mean, before I started resistance stretching, I had TMJ. I had that like locked jaw. I couldn't turn my head. My neck was super tight. I mean, a mess. I was a bad off. It wasn't because of the resistance stretching. That actually helped a lot. My my theory on that, and as far as soft tissue goes, like keep in mind that a lot of things are theory, because soft tissue in the body is like the bottom of the ocean. Like we know it's there, but like
Oh yeah,
yeah,
it's a whole new
so
world.
everything's theory. But the fascial lines, so fascia is like the skin on top of your muscles, and it's this like connective tissue that keeps everything together, but it also keeps it apart, so like fascia separates your organs, or it separates your muscle fibers. It's in between everything, but it's also like this skin. So
Yeah.
in the book Anatomy Trains, the Anatomy Trains, who's the author? I have it somewhere here. There it is. Anthony Myers, I think. In Anatomy Trains, he shows a picture actually of a dissected cadaver with the fascia, and it looks almost like the human form. Like it's like you can almost see their face, and like it's like a body, right? It's the whole fascial system, and it's like this. It's made up kind of like a web, and so the webbing gets tight in certain areas and it's looser in other areas. So if you imagine like a spider web, a good healthy spider builds a very like symmetrical spider web.
Yeah.
A spider in trouble, or like a bad off spider, will create a spider web that's really like dysfunctioned, right? Or like if it gets torn somewhere, it kind of hangs in one place, but then the spider will rebuild it. So if you think of your fascia kind of like a spider web, it gets tight in different places, and it's being held on at the top, like at your jaw, in your scalp, in your fingertips, and in your feet, right?
Yeah.
Those are the end pieces. So what really got me into resistance stretching, like what was the light bulb that was like, oh my gosh, I need to do something different to stretch my fascia, was I ran across an ad, or not an ad, like a paper somebody had written on like Netscape back in like 2002 or something. It was like I found it on the internet, about how tightness in your jaw could be caused by tightness in your quads.
Yeah.
And that it was all related fascially. So tight quads can, like, that fascial line pulls everything down from the front, and that fascial line runs through your jaw and your neck, through the front of your abdomen, through your pelvis, and down through your legs, right? So tight quads can do that. Well, when you're doing resistance stretching, and you might need to problem solve, like for instance, with your hip flexors. Now, I know for a fact, based off of my experience working with clients, that hip flexors, like that stretch I was just showing you, is crucial for healing pelvic pain. You have to be able to access the hip flexor muscle group and stretch it gently and properly to relieve pain in your pelvis. So it's just, the psoas muscle runs right up through. I mean, it basically like cradles your organs. So that being said, if you're not activating the psoas muscle when you're stretching, which could come from a lot of different reasons, then you're not actually stretching it. And what tends to happen is other muscles will take over, one of them being your quads. Yeah. So especially if you're resisting too hard, like I was just showing you. So when you're trying to stretch your hip flexors, if you're not actually activating that muscle and accessing the stretch in that muscle, then your quads will do the work for you. You're actually like just putting more strength and tension into your quads, which tightens up that fascial line, which pulls from here. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like that would be my guess, is that you're needing to problem solve and not problem solving. So we haven't really talked about what problem solving is. So let me run through that a little bit for you.
I was just about to ask about that.
Yeah, you're like, what is she talking about, this magic? So it really is quite magical. it's just basic science, but it feels like magic when it works out. So let me give you an example, like for your quads. If I'm trying to stretch my quadriceps, and I'm always barefoot in my house, sorry. If I'm trying to pull my foot up to my butt, right, like that, the muscles in the back of my body need to shorten. They, like the hamstrings have to contract so that my quads can stretch.
Yeah.
Because they're like on the other side of the body. It's kind of like if I flex my bicep, my tricep is long. And if I go like this, my bicep gets long, my tricep is short, right?
Yeah.
But if we consider like this being my knee joint or something, I could just show you here again. If I'm trying to stretch like this, and this muscle is trying to lengthen here, but my hamstring is like not shortening properly, it'll create a barrier and it'll like cramp up, or it'll just be like a block, and you won't be able to go any further. And you might not even feel a stretch. You might not feel anything at all. And so what we do in resistance stretching is we retrain the muscle to have a bigger range of motion. And range of motion isn't just a stretch. It isn't like just to be bigger range of motion. Range of motion is also contracting. So a tight muscle functions like this, and a flexible muscle functions like this.
Yeah.
And I think people don't really notice that there's like the short side of it. There's a short side of the muscle that's very important. Flexibility is all about being able to fold at your joints, being able to fold properly. And so with resistance stretching, we can actually train the muscle to be more flexible to fold. And if the muscle's more flexible to fold, then it can stretch in the front. Now, I know this is hard to understand, but like if I can fold my hamstrings, if they can fold up like an accordion, then my quads will be free to stretch. If there's an injury in my hamstring, if you have an injury in your hamstring, you have an injury in your hamstrings, you've created dense tissue, scar tissue, there's gunk in there, right? It's trying to protect you from injuring yourself again.
Fibrotics, isn't it?
Yeah, there's something there. So when that muscle goes to shorten, it stops, or it might fold over itself, which will feel like a cramp. And then at that point, the quad can't go any further. It can't do anything else. So it's actually not getting its full stretch. So going to your question, like if I have a tightness or an issue in one muscle, should I stay on that muscle? Well, no, because the problem isn't in your quads in this example, it's in your hamstring.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Now there's another aspect of problem solving too, where you might just be compensating. So if you had an injury or an issue in your quads again, then the pathway that your brain will send, like your body always has a backup plan. And so if something goes wrong with your quads, your body will send the signal to like muscle plan B to make sure that you can still walk or get home. It's a survival technique. The problem is that we don't really automatically reset back to where you were before. Your body just kind of assumes that if you had a quad injury, you'll always have that quad injury, and like we better use the groin muscle instead. And that's a pretty common substitution. So instead of lifting your, lifting your leg to walk and using your quad to come this way, you would use the muscles of the inner thigh and pull up. And so a lot of people have pelvis pain and problems because they're using their groin muscle instead, or like not activating the hip flexor properly to lift their legs. There can be all sorts of problems with compensation. So again, resistance stretching somehow helps that. And this is the magic of it. I don't really understand why, but when we do a resistance stretch, it's almost like retraining your body to use the muscles it wasn't using, showing them how to work, showing them that they're safe. Because when you do a resistance stretch, you go into an extreme range of motion and then you pull back out of it. So your body knows, hey, I'm safe to go this far and I can come back in, I'm cool. Right. Well, and that reinforces.
The things that I've read of fascia, because it's a very recent science, but it's so interwoven with nerve endings that connect directly to the brain. It's your body making connections that over time have been slowly getting weaker and weaker. So when you go into these ranges, you're telling your body this is okay, like we're safe here. So that completely adds up. But
and when I tell you, like, I want people to feel younger in their bodies, like that's exactly what's happening. Because as you start off like as a perfectly formed human being, hopefully as a baby, right? Like that's what we ideally. And then as you get older, you build compensation patterns like crazy. So
Yeah.
like learning to walk is a compensation pattern, because when you put your foot forward and step down, you don't fall over, right? So your body learns and your brain says, okay, I'm going to do this from now on because falling down hurts. And so it doesn't fall down anymore unless, you know, something crazy happens. So riding your bike is the same thing. You get on a bicycle, you lean this way, you fall over, that hurts. You get back on the bicycle, you lean this way, and your body's like, I'm not doing that again. So it leans the other way, and then you fall over and that hurts, right? And then your body eventually fixes so that you don't fall over, you can ride a bike.
Yeah.
And you can remember to ride a bike forever. When they say it's like riding a bike, like you never forget, because your body does not want to fall down. It doesn't.
Yeah.
Right. But the problem is it exactly. And it's really good at this. I mean, the body is like amazing at this. But the problem is that we build compensation patterns our whole lives, and our muscular system really isn't evolved to live past like 35, 40 years old, which is when we start to feel these pains, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Then you hit a tipping point where you have too many compensation patterns and they just build on each other. So like a tightness in your chest becomes like hunchbacked, or like tightness in your hips becomes like, you know, bad posture, that sort of thing. Chronic pain comes from too much compensation.
Yeah.
If it's soft tissue related. But so as we problem solve, basically what you do is I mean, I've gotten into this, like what it is, but how you do it is like you stretch one muscle and you assess from that muscle group what you're feeling. And this is hard for a lot of people, especially if you're in pain, because you're used to totally ignoring your body. So this is a really important method of really getting you into your body, being really present and aware of what's going on in your body right now. And then you think, okay, does this stretch feel awesome? Or does it not feel awesome? And then you can think of like, well, what is not awesome, right? Because a lot of times we ignore it. Even we're doing a stretch and we're like, I think it's okay. But if you're doing a really great stretch, it will feel amazing. It won't feel painful. It'll feel good. You'll feel relieved. You'll feel happy that you're doing it. It's almost like an elation, right? But a bad feeling muscle is like obviously pain, right? Any kind of pain. It could be feeling a stretch in the wrong place. And so in my problem solving videos, and in all of my videos, I'm very clear about like, you should feel this here. And if you don't feel it in this place, then you need to just abandon the stretch completely and do some problem solving. And then in all the videos, they just link to the problem solving video. You just jump to it and do that. But it would be like pain. It could be feeling the muscle in the wrong place. It could be not feeling anything at all. Sometimes people are like, I'm doing this, I don't feel anything. I can't seem to get the stretch. That would be a problem solving cue. Too much resisting, like you were saying, like if you feel like you're really straining, you can't seem to like figure out the resistance, or you feel confused, that's also a sign that your body's compensating. Yeah. So it's worth problem solving at that point.
The common thing that we're that's thrown out there is that you should feel a burning sensation. And is that correct? Is that healthy, or is that not where you should be going?
That's actually that's Nick's like problem solving cue for DCT, which is a little bit different than what I do. So for me, it's like I don't necessarily want to feel a burn unless I'm doing a DCT stretch. So there are some stretches where that's real, where that would be valid. The difference is that when Nick's saying like you should feel a burn, it should be a gentle burn.
Yeah.
Like it's not an intense burn, and it's very specifically in the muscle you're working on. So there's a stretch that he does that's like a hip raise, where you're laying on your side and you lift your knee up into the air. Do you know that one? I think he calls it fire hydrant stretch or something. I love that stretch. I absolutely love it. I use it all the time. It's good for all levels of people who are doing the stretch. Like it's, you know, anybody can do it. It was like little old grandmas doing it. It's wonderful. The stretch itself will activate your glutes so that you feel the burn in your glutes. And when you feel that burn, you know that muscle's activating. And so when you do the stretch, you're good. But if you felt a burn anywhere else, like you should only feel it on the top glute that you're on. right?
Yeah, yeah.
So if you feel it somewhere else, then that's a sign that there could be some problem solving. Does that make sense?
Do you fatigue the muscle beforehand? Because I believe in DCT they're very about fatiguing the muscle beforehand. So like working it out and like then stretching it, or do you just go directly into the resistance stretching?
Yeah, I just go directly into it. So we call it aerobic stretching. You're strengthening and stretching in tandem. So like if I was stretching the back of my shoulders, it's an easy one to show without going to the mat. I would resist against my elbow here, and I push open. This is strength training because the muscles in the back of my shoulder this is my right side, are getting strengthened. They're shortening in the back. And as I pull across, I'm resisting into the resistance stretch, and I get the stretch in the back of my shoulder. And I just go back and forth. So the muscle warms up as it goes, strengthening and stretching at the same time. So I never actually let go of my resistance. And so that's just a little minor difference in DCT. That's just the technique that he does, and it works for him. And it would work for this too. And I do have some clients that I need them to do that. Like if they really have trouble activating their muscles, I have a couple clients like that who need to do a little bit of strength first before they can get the muscle activated. And that works. It totally works. But you know, the way that I do it works too, and I like it better. I think it saves time too, because you're strengthening and stretching at the same time. You're never really having a relaxation phase, so it goes a little faster. Yeah, it goes a little faster like that.
I believe that is the way that it's sort of split up in DCT. I believe it's an hour of stretching and an hour of resistance, an hour of strength, and then an hour of resistance stretching. So it's sort of like. But like still it's a very large portion of your day to be, you know, unless if you're an athlete that sort of works, but if you're just trying to sort of recover and go about your life, then it's a very sort of large amount of time to take up out of the blue, really. But yeah, that's answered everything for me. I think I'll definitely be checking out your course, your progression course. I think I'd love to take part in that to see sort of where I could go with that, how I could progress. Because I wouldn't say I'm flexible. I wouldn't say I'm strong, but I'm flexible in the sense that I've been doing static stretching for ages. So it's not that sustained flexibility, and I'd like that sustained flexibility. So I think I'll be checking that out. But yeah, I think that's covered everything that I was hoping to cover. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I want to just give you a quick disclaimer about the course. Like I said before, it's gonna feel so easy in the beginning, and every week it progresses week by week. So you do the same video for a week, maybe 3 or 4 times, or as many times as you feel like you want to. It also has meditations and affirmations in it, which helps to calm down your parasympathetic nervous system so that your muscles are more like you already are out of fight or flight mode before you start stretching. And that's really important, because when you're in that constant state of tightness and tension, you can't let go. So that's a huge part of the class. And like I said, it's going to feel super easy. You're gonna feel like this isn't gonna work at all. But then once you get into the further weeks, it adds on so gently and slowly that by the time you get halfway through the course, you're like, it's all resistance stretching, and you're actually making really great gains. So it is a slow program. It takes about 4 months to get through, but it's your whole life, right? Like you want to get to the place. Yeah. So you can pretty much assume like every time that you go through like a week's course, you're going to feel like you lost a year of aging. Like that's kind of how it's going to feel. And
that sounds great.
I know. And you know, when you think about it, like after 1 week, if you do 1 week, you're going to feel like you felt last year. Like I didn't feel that much different last year. But if you do like 8 weeks of it, you're going to feel very different.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I mean, that's it's one of those where the mentality, because I just finished my master's in psychology, and the whole aspect of the parasympathetic nervous system is something I've looked into loads. And when you are in constant fight or flight, there is you don't realize it, but you are always locked up. So there is a part of that, and the idea of like the mentality I took towards my CPPS was like, if I have to stretch for the next 2 years to regain what I had 5 years ago. I'm happy with that. Time was not sort of an issue with me. Like, I was more than willing to pay that price, because you're getting your health back. You're getting back to 100%. So 4 months, when you said 4 months, I was like, that sounds brilliant. That's perfect.
Right.
That's fantastic. I'm more than happy to dedicate 4 months to this. So yeah, I mean, I'll definitely check that out. That is fantastic. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. I hope it helps. Do you have any other questions, or are we good?
I think we're good. I'm off to get I think a flu jab now or something. I'm in Britain, so we've got the UK variant. Trust Britain to make things worse. So yeah, we're at the minute, like, this has helped an absolutely huge amount. I really appreciate it, and thank you for getting in contact so quickly. It was fantastic.
Problem. No problem. Like I said, you are not the first person who's reached out to me with these problems and with these same questions. So I'm really hopeful that this will help the community. So yeah, we'll put it online, and I think it's been great.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Right.
I will talk to you soon. Bye.
Lovely day. Bye-bye.